In our first major section of this training, we're going to start with the spiritual and scientific background to the vibrational spectrum. Starting at the largest possible scale to provide context for what we're going to do in this class, we want to talk about the planes of creation, because if we're talking about a vibrational spectrum, we have to see where that vibrational spectrum lies along a continuum of other spectrums. And to understand those different spectrums, we need to understand the different planes of creation as they have been described in classical traditions throughout human history. Now, in our Vesica spiritual science trainings, particularly in the Essential Teachings and Practices online class, we go into the topic of the models of the different planes of creation from different spiritual traditions. For this class, we are going to keep it as simple as possible and offer a simple 5-level system of the different planes of creation. So our basic 5-fold model is based on the concept from spiritual traditions around the world that all the manifest world is based on what we might think of as the body of God. And so when we talk about the levels of consciousness, levels of energy, levels of physical matter, this all comes from the unified source, which the Greeks called the One. So whether we call this the Godhead or we use the name from another tradition, we're talking about the unified source of all creation, and then the creation of all the different planes or levels of structure. And so at the very beginning, we can use the concept from classical traditions that looks at the source of all creation, the One, as being a unified field of consciousness. This field of consciousness is sometimes compared to an ocean of fire. And this ocean of fire then gives a detachment of one flame that then becomes the individual spiritual spark of every living being. And so this concept of the individual spiritual spark that becomes the spiritual core of the human being is represented literally as flames in the iconography of different spiritual traditions. For example, in the Christian tradition, this becomes the flames that appear above the heads of the disciples at Pentecost. And you find the same type of iconography in the classical Indian tradition and other systems around the world. And so at the very first level, we understand that the human spirit core is a direct detachment from this ocean of fire, of beingness, of the Godhead. Then as we move down from the level of pure spirit core of beingness to the level of what we think of as our normal states of consciousness, we move to the level of what is sometimes referred to in the West as the human soul, and also referred to in the esoteric traditions of the West as the human astral body. Now, this astral body has to come from somewhere, and so in the esoteric tradition it's described as the astral plane. The astral plane is the greater plane of consciousness from which our astral body comes. This astral body, or in common terms referred to as the soul, has both mental and emotional functions. And so our mind, our emotional body, these are taken directly from the unified field of consciousness, which is considered in classical traditions as being the mind of God. Again, all the parts of the structure of the human being have to be taken from a greater plane that we then take on to become our own structure. And so here at this next level, we take on the universal consciousness field and form it into our own individualized consciousness. The next level is the human life force. This is the vital power that animates the physical body. It is given many different names in different traditions. For the Greeks and in the modern Western system, it is referred to as the ether, or in the human being, the etheric body. In the East, it is referred to as ki, or chi, or prana. Again, this is the universal life force that actually animates the physical body. In China, this complete field of life energy or vitality is referred to as the universal chi field, and it can be considered to be the vital force of God spread throughout all of creation. The next level is the human physical body, which of course is a detachment directly from the physical plane. This is illustrated in the Sanskrit language, in the Indian tradition, where the name for the physical body means literally, in English, the sheath made of food. Now this indicates that our physical body is a direct taking of substance from the physical world. In fact, the physical food that our mother takes into her body at the time that we are gestating in the womb becomes the foundation of our physical body. And then we ourselves continue to feed the physical body when we are ourselves born out into the world. The constant taking from the physical world builds up our part of the physical body, and then after death, of course, our physical body will decay and disintegrate and go back to the physical plane. So our physical body is the actual sheath or the vehicle for our spirit to have conscious experience in the physical world. And of course, our physical body is the detachment from the physical plane, or in our case, the physical earth itself. Now there is another level that is not as commonly spoken of that's very important to understand for our work in vibrational radiesthesia in this class. And that is the level that we can refer to as the sub-physical, or that Rudolf Steiner, the great Rosicrucian teacher, referred to as sub-nature. This next level is the level that we have when this vital life force, the etheric, moves from the level above the physical body into the physical body to animate it. And through that activity of animating the physical, the etheric life force then begins to slow down, disintegrate, and break down. The breakdown of the etheric life force then leads to a disintegrating energy at the level below the physical. And again, that's what we refer to as the sub-physical or the sub-nature level. Now, this disintegration of vital life force is what we think of today in modern terms as the electromagnetic spectrum. The great researcher Nikola Tesla, in his work in the late 1800s and early 1900s, would speak about the difference between the type of electromagnetic waves that we are using in our modern technology, which he referred to as Hertzian waves, and which is also the term for these waves in modern science today. And he would say that these Hertzian waves are retarded waves. What he was referring to was the concept that Hertzian waves that we use in our modern technology are slower than the speed of light. And Tesla pointed to another aspect of these waves that he referred to as scalar waves, which is faster than the speed of light. This was his particular frame of reference for identifying the difference between what classical traditions would think of as the pure vital life force and the disintegrating life force as it moves below the physical level. Now, what we have in our modern science and technology is a focus only on the sub-physical level with the disintegrating energies of the electromagnetic spectrum, which can be picked up by gross electromagnetic meters. But our modern scientific electromagnetic meters cannot pick up the more subtle level of the etheric, of the pure vital life force. And so we need to be very clear about the difference between these two different things. The vital life energy that is above the physical plane and which animates it, and the disintegration of the vital life force to become the realm of the sub-physical or the electromagnetic spectrum. Now, unfortunately, one thing that has happened in recent years with the growth of alternative medicine, complementary medicine, and what's being referred to as energy medicine or vibrational medicine, is that practitioners of energy medicine will sometimes want to get their work recognized and approved by mainstream medicine and science. And to do so, there's the attempt sometimes made to explain the work of energy medicine according to the paradigm of modern science, which has to do with the electromagnetic spectrum. And in these types of presentations, practitioners of energy medicine will then talk about the way that what they work with in energy medicine is actually electromagnetic fields, and that this vital life energy is actually electromagnetic in nature. Now, this is based on only the best intentions, but unfortunately it has some unintended consequences. First, we need to say that this is always unsuccessful. Modern science and medicine still does not accept energy medicine or any type of vibrational approach, even if it is couched in electromagnetic terms, because their electromagnetic meters are simply too gross to pick up the energies that are being worked with in any type of energy healing practice. The second aspect of this is that this confusion of the sub-physical level of the electromagnetic spectrum with pure vital life force has a confusing and in some cases corrupting effect on our understanding of pure vital etheric energy and on the nature of the human etheric body itself. So we need to understand that these are two very, very different levels. That the electromagnetic level is one in which the etheric forces have disintegrated into a lower state. It is not the same as the pure vital life force. My instructor in radiesthesia, Dr. Ibrahim Karim, would sometimes make the joke that if our pure vital life force was simply electromagnetic, we could plug the base of our spine into an electrical outlet and recharge. But in fact, not only is that not the case, but electromagnetic fields are actually destructive to our vital life force, which is why we have an increasing problem today with people who are electrosensitive. So we need to bear this in mind, that there is a completely different level, the sub-physical, as opposed to the etheric life force level.